The storm showed no mercy. It descended from the northern ridge, rolling down the frozen mountains like a ravenous beast. Piercing gusts howled across the white landscape, carrying ice fragments that cut the skin. No sensible being would venture out in such weather, yet she was there. Her bare feet slipped in the snow. Her long, torn, and soaked robe clung to her body like frozen cloth. The cold had turned her skin a pale blue, and her eyes blinked slowly, fighting off sleep. But if she halted, she would perish. She had to find refuge. She had to survive. Her name was Laura. She hailed from the Arari tribe, a people who believed in stillness, in strictures, in purity. They did not countenance frailty. When she had fallen ill the previous moon, her own kind had expelled her. "The storm will claim you," they had declared. Perhaps they were correct. She discerned a form ahead. It was concealed beneath the snow, partially covered but undeniably present. A small metal hatch embedded in the ground. A spark of hope ignited within her chest. She crawled over and pressed upon it with trembling hands. It did not yield. She pushed again, harder. Finally, it groaned open. Warmth, genuine warmth, ascended from below. She could not perceive much, only the glow of firelight and the muted sound of wind blocked by thick walls. She descended the ladder using her last reserves of strength and collapsed onto the floor. She was alive, but she was not alone. He sat in the corner watching her, silent, still, a man. Not like the naughty Laurie, nor any race she knew. His skin was darker, his beard rough, and his eyes were weary, yet sharp and something worse. He was human. Elara froze. Lore claimed humans were extinct, annihilated in the Great Purge. Their kind had instigated conflicts, incinerated cities, and faded into legend. Her people taught that if a human had endured, it was only because he was too perilous to eliminate. She recoiled, trembling. The man did not move. He slowly raised one hand. Not to attack, not to halt her, merely to demonstrate it held no weapon. "I won't harm you," he stated in a calm voice. She remained silent, unable to speak. Her legs touched the wall. There was nowhere left to flee. "The storm's too fierce," he said. "You'll freeze if you depart." His voice was peculiar, rough, but not cruel. He did not yell, he did not command. He simply observed her with sorrowful eyes. The fire crackled between them. Lyra stayed against the wall, curled up like a trapped creature. Her chest heaved, lungs burning from the frigid air. Her fingertips were beginning to turn black. She needed heat, she needed rest. But he was present. The man turned back to the fire and resumed his seat. He did not pursue her, did not ask questions, just sat quietly, allowing the silence to lengthen. After a considerable time, he spoke again. "My name's Jalen," she offered no reply. "You can take the blanket," he said, indicating the one near the fire. "I possess another." Still no response. But her body made the decision for her. She crawled forward inch by inch, afraid to blink, afraid he might change. But Jalen remained still, remained silent. He simply allowed her to approach the warmth. She reached the blanket and draped it around her shoulders. It smelled of smoke and dust. It was paradise. For the first time in days, she felt the pain in her fingers abate. Her legs ceased shaking. The fire's heat penetrated to her bones. "Thank you," she whispered, almost inaudibly. Jalen gave a small nod. They sat there in silence. One alien girl from a cold-hearted tribe. One human phantom, long presumed dead. And outside, the storm screamed, hungry for life. But within that shelter, in that small space beneath the ice, two adversaries shared the same fire. And neither knew what the future held. Elra had believed the storm was the worst thing that could befall her, but the true peril had just met her gaze and offered her warmth, the silent warmth. The storm outside escalated its screaming as night descended. The wind slammed against the shelter walls like furious fists. Snow accumulated above the metal hatch, sealing them inside. But Laura did not stir. She sat by the fire, wrapped in the blanket Jalen had provided. The heat reached her bones, but the fear had not vanished from her eyes. Jolin remained quiet. He sat opposite her, slowly honing a piece of metal with a rock. It was not a weapon, not yet, but it could become one. She watched his every movement. She did not trust him. She could not. Humans were murderers. That was what the ancient teachings proclaimed. They possessed no tribes, no honor, no spirit. They had emotions like fire, wild and perilous. Her people feared them for a reason, so why was this one silent? Why had he not attacked? What strategy was he employing? Her stomach growled audibly. She lowered her head in shame. Jolin rose slowly and walked to a small box in the corner. He retrieved something wrapped in foil and tossed it towards her. "It's ration bread," he said. "Old but safe." Aura did not touch it, not yet. "Not poisoned," Jolin added. "If I desired your death, I would have let the storm accomplish it." His words struck her like ice. They were true. He had no cause to assist her, no advantage to gain. And yet here she was, warm, alive, fed. Still, she did not trust him. After a long interval, she unwrapped the bread and took a bite. It was dry, devoid of taste, but it filled the emptiness in her stomach. She ate slowly, observing him the entire time. He did not speak again, did not ask who she was, did not ask why she was alone. But he watched her too, not with cold eyes, but with careful ones, like someone attempting to decipher a book that might detonate if handled incorrectly. Her skin still burned from the cold, and her fingers throbbed. Frostbite had already commenced. Jolin walked to a shelf and took down a metal case. "Let me see your hands," he requested. She flinched. "You'll lose them," he added. "The cold's already taken hold." "I can mend it," she whispered. "No, you cannot," he stated flatly. He opened the case. Inside were old medical instruments, scanners, injectors, bandages, some human technology, some alien, mingled in a manner she had never witnessed. "You're a healer?" she inquired softly. "I was," he answered. He walked to her side, kneeling down. She did not move, did not breathe. "Just your hands," he said. "You can stab me afterward if you dislike what I do." She almost smiled at that, almost. She slowly extended her hands to him. His touch was warm and gentle. His fingers moved as though he had performed this many times. He sprayed a foam onto her skin. It stung. She winced, but did not withdraw. "How long were you exposed to the storm?" he asked. "Since morning." "You ought to be dead," he said, his eyes narrowing. "Perhaps I was meant to be." His gaze met hers. For the first time, she perceived something profound within them. Not anger, not hatred, but pain. Deep, solitary pain. "They abandoned you out there?" he asked. She nodded. "I failed the trial. The elders decreed the storm would determine if I possessed the strength to live." "Your people sound like cruel individuals." She did not respond. Perhaps they were. Perhaps they were correct. "You have a fever," he said. "And your breathing is shallow. You're ill." "It's nothing," she whispered. "No, it's a virus common to your kind. It spreads during cold stress." Her heart skipped a beat. "You've encountered it before?" He nodded. "During the border wars, half your race perished from it." "But not humans." He shook his head. "Our immune system combats it." She looked away. Her people possessed no remedy, no means to halt it once it began. Once the fever commenced, death followed. "Can you stop it?" she asked. He reached into the case again and withdrew a needle. "Perhaps," he said, "but it will be painful." She stared at the needle, trembling. "Why would you assist me?" He paused, then spoke in a low voice. "Because I did not assist the last one." And she had died. The shelter fell silent once more. He administered the injection. Her body tensed, then succumbed to sleep. He caught her gently before she struck the floor, carried her to the soft mat near the fire, and covered her with the second blanket. He remained beside her for the remainder of the night, watching her chest rise and fall. Outside, the storm continued its scream, but inside, a human guarded an alien, Not out of obligation, not for compensation, but because the past had left a scar, and perhaps, just perhaps, aiding her could heal it. She had no notion of his true identity, but others would arrive soon, and not all would exhibit mercy. The sickness within Lyra roused her in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. Her head reeled, her chest burned, her breath came in short, sharp gasps. Everything around her appeared blurred, like a dream shrouded in smoke. She reached out blindly and felt the cold metal wall beside her. She recalled the storm. She recalled the shelter, and then him, the human. Her eyes darted to the other side of the room. Jalen was there, seated on a stool, eyes half closed but still vigilant. He had not slept, not once. He noticed her movement and rose. "Don't move," he instructed. "Your body is still fighting." Laura attempted to speak, but no words emerged. He knelt beside her and pressed a small scanner to her forehead. A red light pulsed. "Fever's higher," he muttered. "Too fast." She coughed, a deep, painful sound, as though her lungs were tearing from within. Thin, dark blood emerged, her eyes filled with terror. She had witnessed others in her tribe die like this. Her own mother had coughed this way before her heart stopped. No cure, no hope. Once it began, it never ceased. Don't let me die," she whispered. Jalen nodded. "I won't." He moved swiftly now. He pulled open a rusted cabinet and took out a metal box marked with faded symbols. Inside were 4 old vials, each labeled in a language she did not understand. He selected the blue one and connected it to a device, a strange fusion of alien tubing and human technology. Lyra's eyes widened. "What is that?" "A purifier," he said. "I designed it. No one else possesses this. Why?" "Because no one else remained alive long enough to complete it." She attempted to laugh but choked again. Her body convulsed, her vision flickered. "Don't sleep," he warned, moving closer. "Stay awake. If you sleep now, you might not awaken." "I'm frightened." "Good," he said. "It signifies you desire to live." He inserted the needle into her neck. A warm wave surged through her body, then pain like fire. She screamed, her back arching, then went limp again. Jalen held her steady, whispering something in a language she did not know. His face appeared calm, but his eyes were filled with fear. Fear not for himself, but for her. He had witnessed this too many times before. Hours passed. The fire dwindled. Laura slept, her body twitching occasionally. Jalen checked her every few minutes. Temperature, pulse, respiration, she was stable, barely. He sat down, rubbing his tired face. Memories resurfaced. He had been a medic on the frontier during the Great Border Wars. Humans and aliens had battled over frozen planets, ancient technology, food, even water. But nothing was more lethal than disease. His team had rescued a group of Arari refugees, including a girl who reminded him of El Ra. Her name was Sierra. Brave, stubborn, bright, but too late. She had already been infected. Jalen had striven to save her. He had stayed awake 3 days working on a cure, mixing alien blood with human samples, trying everything. But it had not been sufficient. Sierra had died in his arms. After that, he abandoned the war, left the human fleet, vanished. This shelter, this frozen world was his prison and his grave until Ilra arrived. He looked at her again. Her breathing was slower now. Steady, a positive sign. But then, beep, beep, beep. The motion sensor flashed, red. Jalen sprang up and looked at the screen. It indicated movement, 6 figures approaching the shelter from the east. Fast, organized. Not wild animals, not survivors, but soldiers. He cursed under his breath and grabbed his rifle. He checked the charge, full, still functional. He grabbed his old armor vest, dusty but intact, and strapped it on. Then he went to Elra and gently shook her. "Wake up." She opened her eyes slowly. "What?" "They're coming. Your people." Her eyes widened. "No, not my tribe. Worse." "Who are they?" The Red Sun Patrol, bounty takers. They hunt cast-outs and those who aid them. Jalen's jaw tightened. So they're coming for both of us. She nodded weakly. They don't take prisoners. Jalen helped her sit up. Then we don't grant them the opportunity. Outside, 6 shadows moved across the snow with red lights on their helmets. They spoke in harsh clicks, voices cold like metal. Target inside, life signs confirmed, human signature detected. Orders, take the girl, eliminate the rest. Jalen placed a small metal disc on the wall. It blinked blue. What is that? Laura asked. A surprise, he said. They're not the only ones with technology. The disc activated a pulse field, a temporary barrier around the shelter. He looked at Laura and handed her a small plasma pistol. Can you shoot? She hesitated, then nodded. I won't die without a struggle. Jalen gave her a grim smile. Good. Stay low. Aim for the knees. Outside, the Red Sun Patrol reached the hatch. Their leader raised his weapon. Open it, he commanded. Inside, Jalen raised his rifle. Let them try. They came for a sick girl and a forgotten human. They were unaware. They had just stepped into the mayor. The Red Sun Patrol was almost at the hatch. 6 soldiers in black armor. Their helmets glowed red. They moved like automatons. No fear, no mercy. Bounty takers, hired assassins. And they were not here to parley. Inside the shelter, Elra sat against the wall, her body still frail, but her mind sharp now. Jalen stood nearby, calm but prepared. His rifle was aimed at the metal hatch. His finger was already on the trigger. How long can your shield endure? Laura asked in a low voice. Less than 5 minutes, Jalen answered. Perhaps 3 if they commence firing. Why are they here? She asked. Jalen did not look at her. He was watching the sensor screen. Red dots pulsed closer and closer. They're not here for me, he said. They're here for you. She lowered her eyes. Then you should flee. He gave a bitter laugh. I ceased running a long time ago. The first blast struck the hatch. The barrier shimmered, holding steady for now. Outside, the squad leader raised a fist. Pulse shield active. Allow it 1 more minute. Inside, Laura gripped the pistol he had given her. Her hands still trembled. She had never taken a life before. If they breach, what do we do? She asked. You shoot first, Jalen said. Don't hesitate. Don't think. And you? He finally turned to look at her. I do what I've always done. Protect the one in front of me. For a moment, everything fell silent. Even the storm outside had abated. Just silence, heavy, sharp. Then Laura spoke. Why do you care? You don't know me. Jalen looked away. The fire crackled. He sat down beside her, placing the rifle across his knees. 10 years ago, he began. I was on a rescue mission. A plague had erupted on the border planets. Our ship picked up survivors, mostly Arari. Some were infected, some weren't. You were a soldier? Laura asked. I was a medic, he said. A healer? We weren't supposed to fight, just save who we could. He stared at the floor, lost in the past. There was a girl, he continued, young, strong spirit. Name was Sierra. She wasn't like the others. She joked, she smiled. She trusted humans when the others feared us. Laura listened intently. She could discern the pain in his eyes. She had the sickness, he said. Just like you, I attempted everything. Mixed alien medicines with human science, created formulas, injected samples, stayed awake 4 nights straight. His voice dropped. I believed I had a cure. What happened? She asked. I was too late, he said. I held her hand when she stopped breathing. Silence again. I lost my license. Command blamed me, claimed I used unapproved tech, called it risky, dangerous. I left, came here. He looked at her now. You're the second Arari girl I've tried to save, perhaps my last. Laura said nothing, but her heart ached. She had seen many humans in the ancient ruins, warriors, destroyers, monsters, but she had never seen one weep until now. Another blast struck the hatch, harder, sharper. The shield fractured. Jalen stood quickly. Prepare yourself. We cannot prevail, Laura whispered. We don't have to prevail, Jalen said. We just have to survive. The shield failed with a loud crack. Metal screamed as the hatch was forced open. Red light flooded the shelter. 6 armored figures stepped inside, weapons raised. Stand down, the lead soldier shouted. Jelen did not reply. He raised his rifle and fired. A blast struck the first intruder in the chest. He dropped like a stone. The others returned fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the room. Elra ducked and rolled to the corner, her heart pounding. She fired her small pistol. One shot struck a soldier's leg. He screamed and fell. Jalen moved as though he had done this 100 times. Ducking, aiming, firing, cold, fast, precise. But they kept advancing. They're not bounty hunters, Jalen shouted. They're private military. Someone wealthy hired you. Why? Laura cried out. I don't know, he fired again. A plasma bolt hit his shoulder. He grunted and stumbled back. Elra ran to him, pulling him behind the metal crate. You're bleeding, she said. It's fine, he said. Just keep firing. But she saw it. Too much blood, too fast. You'll die, she whispered. Maybe, he said, but not before they do. Then something peculiar occurred. The last 2 soldiers ceased firing. A voice emanated from their speaker. The girl is the target. Eliminate the human. Bring her alive. Elra froze. Jalen looked up at her. You're valuable, he said. Someone out there desires you alive. But why? Your blood, he said. The sickness your body is altering. Perhaps you are the cure. Her mind reeled. You mean they intend to exploit you, Jalen said. To sell you, to study you. She looked at the pistol in her hand, then at Jalen, then at the enemy. Something within her shifted. She stood up, aimed carefully, and fired. 1 shot to the first soldier's leg, a second shot to the next one's arm. They recoiled, surprised. Jalen pulled himself up beside her. I thought you couldn't shoot, he said. I can now. Outside, the storm began to subside. Inside, blood and smoke filled the room. They had survived. Barely. But now the true questions commenced. They had endured the initial assault, but someone powerful was pursuing her, and he might be the only one left who could keep her alive. Silence settled over the shelter once more. Yet it was not peace, but the heavy, thick silence that follows something terrible, full of smoke and pain. Jalen leaned against the wall, pressing a cloth to his bleeding shoulder. Lara knelt beside him, hands shaking, attempting to staunch the blood. You need sutures, she said. Later, he muttered. We lack the time. The bodies of the patrol squad lay motionless on the cold floor, 3 dead, 3 alive but unconscious. The air smelled of burnt metal and plasma. The heat from the rifles had left black scorch marks on the walls. Ellara looked at the fallen soldiers, her hands trembling. They weren't seeking me, she said softly. They were after what resides within me. Jalen nodded slowly. Your blood, the pure sickness. It's not killing you, it's transforming you. How do you know? He reached into his pocket and produced a small scanner, a worn piece of technology barely held together with tape and old wires. He pointed it at her and tapped the screen. Observe, he said. Your cells are mutating, not adversely. They are fighting the virus, but they are also generating something novel. She stared at the scanner. Glowing points moved across the screen. You are becoming something else, he said. Your immune system is building resistance faster than anything I have ever witnessed. Your body could contain the cure. Her voice was barely a whisper. They intend to use me. He nodded. Or sell you, or clone you, or worse. Then I am not safe anywhere, she said. He looked up at her, his eyes serious. You are safe with me. But even as he uttered those words, another alarm sounded. A red light flashed on the control screen. Jalen dragged himself across the room and looked, his face tightening. What is it? Laura asked, already fearing the answer. They transmitted a signal before we incapacitated them, Jalen said. They called for reinforcements. A vessel is approaching. Laura felt a knot tighten in her stomach. How many? Uncertain, but it's not a rescue. They had less than 10 minutes. Jalen ripped a strip from his shirt, binding it around his shoulder. He moved with difficulty now, flinching with each step, yet his gaze remained sharp. We must depart, he stated. This refuge won't withstand another patrol. But there's a tempest outside. The storm is tracking west, he countered. We head east into the ridge caves. Laura hesitated. What if they pursue? He turned, meeting her eyes. Then we ensure they regret it. They packed swiftly. Jalen gathered a small medkit, 2 spare rifles, a few rations, and the scanner. Laura took one of the patrol's backpacks, discovering extra power cells. Then she noticed something peculiar, a black card bearing a red symbol. What is this? She inquired. Jalen froze upon seeing it. That's not patrol, he stated. That's corporate. What do you signify? The Red Sun Patrol doesn't utilize this emblem, he clarified. But corporations do, particularly those involved in genetics. Her eyes widened. This wasn't about retribution then, it was commerce. Indeed, he replied, his voice laced with bitterness. And you are the commodity. They unsealed the hatch cautiously. Snow still descended, but the storm had diminished. The wind was now gentle, a whisper rather than a shriek. They stepped out into the stark white landscape, abandoning the warm sanctuary that had both preserved and nearly ended them. The cold instantly bit at their skin, but this time Laura didn't tremble. She felt stronger now. Something within her had shifted, not merely her blood, but her spirit too. They moved rapidly across the ice. Jalen limped, but he never paused. Laura supported him with one arm, her other hand poised near her weapon. As they ascended the ridge, Jalen indicated a narrow fissure between 2 jagged rocks. There, he said, the caves. We will conceal ourselves there, rest, formulate a plan. And subsequently? She asked. He regarded her with a calm intensity in his eyes. Then we ascertain who desires you and why. Behind them, high in the sky, a ship entered the atmosphere. It differed from the patrol vessel, sleek, black, silent. A logo flickered on its flank. A silver serpent coiled around a red planet. On board, a voice spoke coldly through a comlink. Target has moved east. Prepare for ground extraction. Orders are unequivocal. Capture the girl alive. Terminate the human. Within the cave, Laura observed Jalen as he kindled a small fire and activated a camo field to mask their heat signatures. How did you construct all this? She asked. He smiled faintly. I formerly worked for them. Them? The corporations? He confirmed. I devised equipment like this, field tech, cloaks, bioscanners. I constructed the machines they now employ to pursue individuals like you. Her voice trembled. So you possess the knowledge to halt them? He met her gaze, his eyes steady. Yes, and now that they have come for you, I finally possess a motive to resist. Outside, the black ship descended silently onto the snow. Armored figures advanced into the cold, but they were unaware of the cave. They were unaware of the man waiting within, and they were unaware of what the girl beside him was becoming. The storm had passed, now the pursuit commenced, and this time the quarry could retaliate, fire in the frost. The frost cave was frigid and still, but Jalen's hands were occupied. He labored swiftly, fingers tightening wires, checking batteries, setting traps. Laura watched him from the cave wall, still recovering her breath. The cold no longer afflicted her as it once had. You built all of this? She asked, her voice hushed. Some of it, Jalen replied, not looking up. The remainder was salvaged from abandoned old outposts, military tech they discarded. He affixed a motion sensor near the cave entrance, just above a cluster of sharp rocks. It would activate a burst of fire plasma if anyone approached too closely. Simple. Brutal. They will track us here, she stated. They invariably do. Jalen nodded. Yes, but they will not anticipate our readiness. She took a step nearer. Why do they desire me so intensely? He turned towards her. Because you are the key to something beyond their control, perhaps a cure, or perhaps your body is adapting to the virus in an unprecedented manner. They do not seek to heal you. They seek to replicate you, market you, convert your blood into credits. Laura's heart hammered. What if I surrender myself, cease the struggle? He regarded her for a prolonged moment, then stated flatly, then they will drain you until nothing remains, and they will do the same to others. Next? Outside, the black ship settled like a shadow descending upon the ice. Its engines were silent, its lights dim. 7 figures emerged from the rear ramp. Not patrol soldiers this time, but something else. Cleaner, colder black armor, precise movements, perfect coordination. Each bore a serpent symbol on their chest, a silver coil drawn tight. Signal detected, one reported. Cave system, life signs confirmed, 2 inside. The group's leader, a tall figure with a cracked visor, turned towards the cave. The girl is priority, he ordered. Employ gas if necessary, incinerate the rest. Back in the cave, the atmosphere grew taut. Laura was near the fire, inspecting the plasma pistol Jalen had provided her. She had never received training, yet her hands moved with greater assurance now. Her aim had improved. She sensed it, the internal fire intensifying. How much time do we have? She asked. Minutes, Jalen replied. They are superior to the previous unit, faster, more astute. But you are familiar with their technology, she reminded him. He offered a tight smile. I know precisely where to strike. The first indication of the adversary came with a flicker of red light at the cave mouth, then silence. No footsteps, no shouting, merely a sound like air being sliced by blades. Jalen stood, rifle prepared. He whispered, They are attempting to encircle us. 3 to the front, 2 flanking left, 1 ascending the ridge above. Laura blinked. How do you know that? Because that is what I would do. He tossed her a small disc. If you perceive anyone above you, throw this, then flee. She nodded. They assumed their positions. Jalen behind the crates near the cave center, Elra deeper inside, crouched behind a stone outcrop. The firelight flickered, casting long shadows across the walls. Then came the initial shot. It struck the cave roof. Not them. A warning blast. Dust descended from above. You are surrounded, a voice called out, flat, devoid of emotion. Jalen offered no reply. Deliver the girl. You can depart. The voice persisted. You first, Jalen shouted back. A pause, then pandemonium. A blinding flash filled the entrance. Smoke billowed into the cave. Jalen fired first. 1 clean shot. It struck the lead attacker in the chest. The figure crumpled without a sound. Another advanced through the smoke. Jalen hit him in the leg, then dove behind cover as plasma bolts slammed into the rock. From above, Laura witnessed a shadow drop onto a ledge near her, a black-armored enemy. Her hands reacted before she could formulate a thought. She hurled the disc. It struck the attacker's chest. A burst of electrical fire erupted outward. The soldier screamed and plunged from the ledge, sparks flying from his body. Jalen saw it. Excellent throw. They continued their advance, 5 remaining, 2 already down. But Jalen was bleeding again. A shot had grazed his side. He gritted his teeth, pressed a hand to the wound, and continued firing. Alara crawled across the floor, dragging a crate behind her. Inside were more power cells. She slammed one into her pistol and yelled, Behind you! Jalen whirled just in time to duck. A bolt flew over his head. He rolled and fired upward. His blast struck the ceiling. Snow and rock collapsed onto the enemy's helmet. The attacker did not rise. Now only 2 remained. But these 2 were different. They moved swiftly, too swiftly. Experimental gear, leg boosters. One charged Jalen, a blade drawn. They clashed. Rifle against plasma knife. Sparks flew, weapons locked. The other advanced towards Laura. She fired, missing. The soldier tackled her. They tumbled across the cave floor, grappling. Her pistol was knocked from her hand. The soldier raised his fist to strike, but then a burst of heat. Elra cried out, and the soldier froze, not from pain, but from terror. His armor scanner blinked. Bioenergy. Spike detected. He looked down. Elra's skin was luminous. Bright veins of golden light pulsed beneath her arms. Her eyes shimmered like fire trapped within ice. She seized the soldier's helmet and with a surge of unknown strength flung him across the cave. He struck the wall and did not get up. Jalen stood over the final soldier, panting. His hands trembled. His face was pallid, but he was still alive. He glanced over at Laura. She stood in the center of the cave, softly glowing, her breathing heavy, her eyes fixed on the fire. What just occurred?" she asked. He stared in silence, then whispered, "You are no longer merely surviving, you are evolving." Outside, the black ship received no return signal. The pilot frowned and activated the emergency beacon. Somewhere far distant, a new signal was transmitted. Subject active, prototype awakened, initiate containment protocol. She was no longer a girl fleeing from death. She had become something the galaxy feared, and now the genuine hunters were approaching. The last warmth, the fire in the cave had nearly died out. Elra sat near the embers, enveloped in silence. The golden radiance beneath her skin had faded, but the memory of what transpired remained in her very being. She had hurled a soldier as though he weighed nothing. Her body had moved with power she hadn't known she possessed, and Jalen had witnessed it all. He sat opposite her, clutching his side where the blood had soaked through. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. Laura moved closer. "Do you require assistance?" she whispered. Jalen offered a weak smile. "You've endured worse?" She shook her head. "You will perish if we remain here." He regarded her intently. "And if we move, they will locate us," she said. "But we cannot wait. They know what I am now. They will dispatch more." Jalen's eyes narrowed. "You perceived it too, did you not? When you made contact with him." She nodded slowly. "It was like heat surging through my skin, like something inside me awakened." "Your body," he said. "It isn't merely adapting to the virus, it is rewriting you, like evolution in rapid progression." She swallowed hard. "Then what am I now?" He offered no reply. He simply reached for her hand. Her skin was warm, not just warm, but alive with energy. Her pulse was steady, strong, as though her body had decided death was no longer an option. "You are the next stage," Jalen said quietly, "and the entire galaxy will covet a part of you." They packed in silence. Laura assisted Jalen into his worn coat, then loaded the last of their provisions onto a sled. He couldn't walk far, so she would pull him through the snow. His rifle rested in his lap. Before they exited the cave, she glanced back once. The bodies were still there, now frozen, proof of what she had become. They stepped into the cold. The sky above was gray, no sun, no stars, only clouds like smoke. In the far distance, the black ship remained on the ice, silent, waiting. "Where do we proceed now?" she inquired. "The mountains," Jalen replied. "There is an ancient station up there, a deep signal tower. We might be able to summon aid." "Who would assist us?" He gave her a weary look. "Not everyone out there seeks to possess you. Some might wish to safeguard you." She said nothing, but her eyes remained fixed on the distant ship. "They will track us," she stated. "They invariably do." "Good," Jalen whispered. "Let them approach." An hour passed, then two. Jalen coughed blood again, but remained silent. Laura pulled the sled with greater effort. Her muscles no longer felt fatigued. Even in the cold, her body remained warm. Then a sound echoed across the ice, a sharp hum like something rending the clouds. She looked up, her eyes widening. "Ship," she said, "approaching rapidly." Jalen turned his head. "That is not patrol. That is military." "Whose?" He stared at the emblem on the hull, a white fang inside a red circle. "Private Army," he muttered. "They have summoned the formidable ones." The ship did not land. Instead, it deployed 3 drones, flying black machines with glowing optical sensors. They hovered above the snow, scanning. Jalen aimed his rifle but did not fire. Do not expend ammunition, he instructed. They are merely scouting. What action do we take? Run! They raced towards the ridge. Laura dragged the sled faster than she believed possible. Snow billowed behind her like smoke. The drones pursued, scanning, locking on. Then one fired. A plasma bolt struck the ground beside them, erupting snow and ice into the air. Jalen rolled off the sled. Go, he shouted. No, you must. I am not abandoning you, she declared. Never. He looked at her and perceived something in her eyes he had not seen before. Not fear, not weakness, but fear. She stood before him, arms extended, breathing heavily. The drone fired again, and something extraordinary occurred. The air around her shimmered like heat radiating from a flame. The plasma bolt struck her and halted. It sparked, fizzled, and vanished. Jalen stared, his mouth agape. That is impossible. Lara's skin began to glow again, brighter than before. Lines of light surged up her arms. Her eyes turned gold. She raised her hand and the drone exploded. The other two turned to flee, but it was too late. She did not touch them. She merely looked, and they plummeted from the sky. Jalen was speechless. Elara dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. I cannot sustain that for long, she whispered. He crawled over and took her hand. You saved me once more. She smiled faintly. We are now even. They reached the ancient signal tower by nightfall. It stood broken and silent, like a skeleton interred in snow. Jalen connected the wires, bypassed the security codes, and forced the comms online. He transmitted a signal, brief, encrypted. Then they waited. After 2 hours, a voice emerged through the static. This is Sanctuary Station, receiving you. Identify. Jalen leaned into the microphone. This is Medic Jalen Ran. I possess a living cure. I have her. A pause. Then the voice returned. Understood. Maintain position. We are inbound. Lara sat beside him, her eyes fixed on the dark sky. Will they assist us? She inquired. Perhaps, he said. But now they know what you are. What am I? She asked again. He looked at her. This girl who had once frozen at the sight of a human, now radiating life strength and something more. He reached out and gently touched her shoulder. You are the last warmth in a world of ice, he said, and they will never seize that from you. Above them, another ship began its descent, but this one was different. Not here to capture, not here to inflict harm, but perhaps, just perhaps, here to fight alongside them, the conclusion.